Today I will be reviewing the newest 4.0 Reimagined MOC, Black Phantom. If you're a longtime subscriber, or if you've just been keeping up with 4.0 Reimagined, you'll know that this is the very last MOC for 4.0 Reimagined. And he definitely took me the longest out of any of the other MOCs. I believe he took about 12 hours to build, and I think he's about 1,000 pieces. I didn't count, but my guess would be that he's close to 1,000 pieces. Here's what Black Phantom's actual set looked like. As you can tell by the lid over there, Black Phantom kind of broke my reviewing station. I wasn't equipped to review something of his size, and so unfortunately I didn't have time before this review to counteract that by getting a bigger reviewing station. So for the time being, most of the shots are going to be fairly zoomed in, but I have to keep this shot zoomed out because now it's time for the size comparison. I'll go ahead and just put a ruler by Black Phantom. He's probably about 14 or maybe 15 inches at his turrets up there, probably 14. But now I'll go ahead and start putting in some 4.0 Reimagined MOCs. Here's Splitface. He was the tallest 4.0 Reimagined MOC, but as you can see, he's dwarfed by Black Phantom. And now here's Raka, 4.0 Reimagined, which is the hero of Black Phantom, if you didn't already know. And so I'm pretty sure Black Phantom would win that fight, unless Raka is seriously skilled or equipped with some sort of special weapon. Black Phantom is definitely the tallest MOC that I made in recent years, and he probably would have to go down as my favorite MOC so far. Now that the size comparison is done, we can go ahead and move on to the legs. The legs are actually what I started out building just because I wanted to make sure I had a sturdy foundation. The legs took about 3 hours to build, and the reason why is because I used an unconventional technique to attach the legs to the body and to help the legs move and support his weight. This is the system that I used to connect the legs to the body with. And this is unconventional in the sense that it has two different sets of ball joints to control one set of motion. So it has the two ball joints right here that will move it forward and back, and then it has the two ball joints right here to move it side to side. And so what that looks like on a big scale is just like this. It has basically the same range of motion as the typical ball joint. It's just a little bit sturdier. But the reason why it's a little restricted is because this also requires more maintenance in that you have to cover it up with a lot of different armor plates. Otherwise, you're going to see gaps like right there. So you have to typically do some sort of rubber band system to get an armor plate right here to glide over Lego pieces and to cover up the gap that you don't want to be visible. And so that piece is just connected sheerly by two rubber bands, one up here and one right there, just to help it glide and over that Lego piece and to help cover any gaps. And so this system obviously takes a little bit longer, but it is a little more durable, and it's harder in the long run, but it works out better for a bigger MOC. The feet were a challenge in and of themselves, just to make sure they had enough surface area and they were built properly and that they would just work with the MOC. And so far, they haven't had any issues, or I haven't had any issues with them. They've worked well and supported his weight well. And that's also because I put a piston on the back of his leg just to give him some extra stability. Now, his knees are also pretty stiff. Nothing's really going to go wrong with them. But basically, if you're building a big MOC, the thing you have to worry about, or at least the thing that's been the biggest problem to me with building big MOCs, has definitely been the joints right here, just where the thigh connects. Because that's really the main point where the body can move back and forth. If you have sturdy knees, then nothing will happen with those. It's typically just where the thigh connects to the body. And so if you don't get a sturdy foundation or a sturdy connection point, your MOC is probably going to tip forward a lot, or maybe even backwards, depending on what stance he's in. So if you're looking to build a big MOC, I would make sure to build him with sturdy connection points right there. Now moving on to the arms and the upper body, I'd have to say the arms are my favorite part of this build, at least my favorite thing that I had to build, because there's really nothing riding on the arm design. They don't aid in structural stability or anything super important. They're just there to hold weapons and kind of to look cool. And so that's why the arms typically are my favorite thing to design. The only difference between the arms is that this palm doesn't have a Lego piece in it, and this palm has a little circular dish piece right there. And that's just because both hands hold a different weapon. This hand holds his big staff, and this hand holds his gun. And how the gun connects, it connects with two little pin pieces with stud attachments at the end. And so it's a lot easier to attach it without that little dish piece interfering. And so obviously, when I'm typically posing him, I would have the fingers under the gun, but it's a little harder to start out with the fingers underneath the gun, because how it's built is it uses the two Alex heads, and so it can interfere with the fingers. So I probably need to extend the gun design just slightly. And the staff attaches through a Technic piece, and so if I can get it first try without looking, that would be amazing. And as you can see, it does swivel a little bit because it has half of just a Technic and half of an axle. And so it will swivel a little bit, and that's actually kind of a good thing in posing, because it means you won't have to use the wrist to swivel the weapon. The weapon can just swivel independently. And so that's really the only difference of the arms. The arm design is definitely the best arm design I've ever come up with. I just really like how it looks. And it's really a simple design. It's just simple MOC building, just it's a lot bigger of an arm, so it has more opportunity to have different techniques used. I really wanted to add this little spike piece right there to give him an elbow, and so that actually has a little rubber band on it, so it can move, but it'll snap back in place. And I thought that was kind of a cool addition, because I wasn't going to be able to do it any other way, because these two pieces right here, it couldn't just be straight out. I had to attach it at an angle, and I didn't have any piece that could attach at an angle that wouldn't swivel, and so I had to use a rubber band to make it snap back, because if it didn't have the rubber band, it would just be going everywhere constantly. It wouldn't be just in one spot. And so that's another place where I used a rubber band to add an extra detail. The bicep is very big, as you can see, and he has this cool looking armor plate piece. That's just the same piece used on his staff, or the same piece used at the end of his staff for the hammer segment. The arm design is the same on either side, as I've already said, and so that means all I had to do was copy it once I finished it. But unfortunately, while I was copying it, I accidentally copied it exactly, and so I had to rebuild part of it because I copied it exactly and it wouldn't fit on the other arm because it was this exact arm. So if he had 4 arms, that would have worked, but not with just 2. His back isn't very complex either. It has a few gray techniques exposed, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't really affect the build, in my opinion. If they were blue, then I don't know, I might feel differently about it. I put these tire pieces back here in this big, I think that's some type of spaceship exhaust piece. I put all of those back there just to add kind of a cool technological effect. And then, as I'm sure you remember, the actual Black Phantom had these big guns on his back, but they were a little different. I believe they were just a spike with a green wire running to each one of them, but instead I made them guns and not spikes. I think they shot acid on the movie, but I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it. And he has the quasi spikes like he had in the movie, but he has 2 extra pairs on his shoulder armor plates. And then his body, of course, is really, or at least his chest is very detailed and decorated with a lot of different sloping Lego pieces, or Technic pieces. And then I use that Bionicle mask, I cannot remember the name of that Bionicle for the life of me, but I use that mask there to complete the chest armor plating. And then I just have one of those 1.0 armor plates and then a black armor plate. I think that was introduced in Hero Factory's 3.0, but who knows, I probably am wrong about that. Unfortunately, you've probably already thought of this, but his head is a little bit small when looking at him head on. It's kind of a little bit small compared to his very big body. This is definitely the most intimidating MOC I've ever seen. I don't know, the small head almost makes him look like he's in a big suit of armor, and so it kind of adds to his intimidating appearance. Well, this was the last review of a new 4.0 Reimagined MOC. The next video about 4.0 Reimagined that I will post will be the video of all of the MOCs together and how cool they look all together. It's going to be a really good video. I think it'll probably be a lot shorter than this one just because it will be the last video, and so I don't want to make it a very long one. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll like and subscribe and check out some of my other reviews.